Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining. I am your MC for this evening. Normally I do multimedia, but I'm having to fill in because a lot of people out. So from a presidential succession, I'm your Secretary of State, maybe Secretary of Interior in terms of succession to the presidency. But President Martin Evans, he's out in the Galapagos. So, living the dream, shooting. So he couldn't be here tonight. So hopefully he's taking a lot of pictures. So, hey, welcome to 2026, right? And many thanks to Laura Twining for her second session with us in December for the multiple exposures. You can see her work there down below. Very interesting. I know we had a lot of folks on there trying out, and I will actually post live some of the things. I learned something in my camera. I had no idea it was there. It's pretty fascinating. So thanks a lot to Laura. Membership, Susan Reed. So welcome to new members. I'm just going to say the first names, Marta, Lisa, and Mike, because I don't want to get last names wrong. You can read them here, but welcome to them. We're happy to have them. And do we have any guests tonight? Maybe so? No? Okay, no problem.
We do have a new member that's not listed. Just came in yesterday, Gretchen Gwynn.
Okay. So Gretchen will be on our February slide. How's that? Okay. So as a repeat, you've seen this. Here are our officers and how you can contact them. There will be a quiz, so please take notes. Just kidding. Kemp, are you on? Did I hear you?
Yes, I am.
You want to go through your slide, or are you prepared? And I can read.
Pardon, what did you ask?
Your slide is up for.
Oh,
we just put something together for you. Karen did. Karen did a lot of this, all of this, really. Talking about the image evaluation.
oh, yes. Our first one is next month. Jamie Hayes is the evaluator. And it's no assigned subject. You can submit up to 2 images, digital or prints, or one of each. And we are releasing our 2026 image evaluation procedures here soon. And we also are going to have some workshops if anybody would like to sit in and refresh or learn. If you've never submitted an evaluation, we're going to go through the process with you if you'd like to attend one of those before our next meeting. That's it.
We're not hearing you, Paul.
Are you not?
Now we are.
Huh. All right. I'm gonna have to
There you go.
that. So Doug, it's through the end of January that I thought it was through March before they get dropped.
The end of February.
Okay.
Quite a few people. We got about a third of them have joined already. About 10% joined in December last year, but we're doing good.
Is our digital director, so thank you, Kemp, for taking over for Pat. So yeah, image evaluation next month, like he had said. And just a heads up on the assigned subjects. You see them down there, patterns, shadows, multiple exposures. So be on the lookout for that. Just keep that in mind. Karen, she couldn't be out. She's probably singing right now, actually. So she couldn't be with us tonight. But again, the evaluation procedures are coming soon. Hopefully you get to read and catch the Southern exposure. So we've got the list of all the 2025 winners. Don't have a slide on here for the banquet, but just a quick recap. It was a great night this time last week. Great dinner, great venue. I think there's going to be a survey sent out to see how people like both the location and the time of year. So be on the lookout for that. I'm not sure when that's going out, but it'll be great to get the feedback there. And yeah, check out, we got some spotlight videos coming out. Those things are pretty nice. Learn a lot about folks that you know, maybe sat next to in the meetings and had no idea. So yeah, send your nominations to her. It's publications@ccrva.gmail. Pat, are you on? Pat Davis? I don't hear her. No problem. So we got it was quite a year last year. Her Pat and Patricia Mumford, excellent job with the exhibits, and they've already got 4 lined up for this year. I'm sure they're gonna have a few more, maybe up their sleeve, maybe mid-year. But you can read them there. Covenant Woods Cultural Arts Center in Glen Allen. I think we've been there before. Richmond Public Library, we were there last year. And VCU Health, there was always a good mainstay. So there's great venues, chance to show off your prints. So get them evaluated and then, you know, get them in a frame. Michael Orr, I think he is out as well. So he'll have his hands full this year. Last year was a little light, but
No,
now we
I'm
got
here.
4. Oh, you are? Go for it, Michael.
Yeah, I mean, just that's pretty straightforward. We had a lot of prints for the year end, so you know, we try to get them in during the year too, if you want.
Terry, I saw you. Go for it.
Yeah, I'm a little slow right now in getting through the winter images. We'll get those up pretty reasonable soon. By the way, the website now has links to the spotlight videos. Those will be on the member page, and also educational presentations. Those will be on the education activities page. So we're not going to be putting those in the newsletter in the future. That's been stripped out, and you can catch all of those on the website. You got links to get them. So that's actually very useful. And the other thing, some people have traditionally asked for the end of year competition images scores, and just send me an email to the webmaster, and I will get around to it again, eventually, and get those to you. And that's your scores only. Nobody sees anybody else's score. That's it.
You hear me okay? Can you say the email address again?
Oh, it's webmaster.ccrva
Dot.
at gmail.com.
Webmaster.ccrva?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And that's in the newsletter, I think, every
Okay.
newsletter. So on. So you
Read
can
your
find it
newsletter.
readily.
All right. Marianne. Or Joe. Or both.
Well, Joe probably has more outdoor events than I have indoor events. We are just starting, believe it or not. I guess we've had spring as well as winter. There have not been very many online workshops, but they're just starting to put them out because it seems like it's snowing on the other side of the country. So there are more online free events on the other side of the country. You just have to watch the time because we're looking at Pacific time instead of Eastern Standard Time, which might make us viewing it later, like 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night. But you should see more of those coming up, and Joe could tell you about the live stuff. I know Joe was on a minute ago.
There you go. I couldn't turn my my volume on. I got it on now. You hear me?
Yep.
All right. I've got a couple oddies expos that are up there now. By sometime tomorrow afternoon, there'll be a volleyball tournament that'll be going up. That a few people attended last year and the year before, and there's a couple rodeos that have already been posted. And of course, when the roller derby starts up, and I get a schedule, and those will be coming up, and some rugby games. So, and that's it so far.
I haven't seen Jerry, Paul.
And if you're saying something, Paul, we can't hear you.
This is a bad test, right?
Yeah, it really is.
Well, it's a good test telling you there's a problem.
Jerry seems to be muted.
How about now?
Yep.
All right, so I think it's just got to be close. Or turn it up.
So we determined that Jerry's not here.
Well, we're going to move on because it's really just, he got the minutes out there. All right, and just PSA rep, Carol, and past President Harold. I don't know if they're on, but just FYI for new folks joining, put face to names.
I think they were both there last week, right?
I think so. All right.
Yay, Ray.
Yeah, and now our feature presentation, Intentional Composition Through Photography with Ray Schneider. It's about our presenter, Ray, award-winning freelance photographer, author, and teacher. Spans genres, including portrait, street, landscape, animals, and events. Avid traveler, images from over 30 countries. Wow, it's impressive. I hadn't been to that many. Now your book, what the photographer sees? Hopefully you can talk a little bit about that. And an award from Black and White magazine, and that's his website down below. So without further ado, Ray, nice to meet you, by the way.
Nice to meet you.
Thanks for being on.
Looney Tunes is the perfect introduction.
Yeah, that's a Martin thing.
I'll start sharing, I guess.
Okay, I'll stop sharing. How's that?
Oh, okay. Oh, good idea. Okay, great. Let me see.
We'll switch or change it.
I think this is going to work well. Super. Can you all see the main introduction slide? I
Yes.
think so. Yeah. All right. Well, hi. Good evening. And thanks for having me. You guys are in Richmond. You're warmer than I am, I think. At least a little bit warmer. I'm up here in Philadelphia area. So, intentional composition. I was at lunch the other day with my brother-in-law talking about my intentional composition presentation. And I mentioned that I'd be talking about what I call the universal characteristics of photographs that make them more memorable and interesting. And he was quick to respond, and he said, "You can't predict what I'm going to like." And I said, "Well, you're right about that, but that's not exactly what I said." I said, "I can't predict what you're going to like, but I can increase the chance that when you look at a photograph, a particular picture will be more or less interesting and memorable." So I'm going to talk about not liking pictures, but finding them ones that you can conjure again in your memory after this presentation or after you share your photos with other people. I've included a wide range of pictures. As was mentioned, I don't take just one genre of pictures. I'm sort of a little bit of a jack of all trades, but that also means maybe I'm not the best at any one. I hope there's something in my presentation for everybody. Some things I'll talk about will reinforce things you already know and are already doing with your compositions. Hopefully I'll have some new ideas for you or things well, yeah. So the idea of this workshop, intentional composition, is to contrast it with unintentional composition, which is a little bit more like a car accident. And with cell phone proliferation, I know I'm talking to an experienced group of photographers, and yet we're all walking around with our phones, and we're all taking a lot of pictures, probably more than we ever have because of our phones. And that does create a certain kind of behavior on our part, a clicking behavior. Click the picture, because after all, digital is free, and phones make it even easier. And so it reinforces a little bit of this unintentional composition idea. I'd like to bring us back to really being intentional and thoughtful about our pictures each time we click the shutter. And the idea is that by being a little more intentional, we can increase the chance our pictures will be more memorable, regardless of the subject or the equipment that we're using. As I mentioned, I take pictures of a lot of different subjects. And for those of you who are curious about my equipment, because we're photographers, we enjoy that aspect also. My pictures metadata shows that about 75% of the pictures that I keep are taken under 120 millimeter focal length. My main camera is a D850 with a 24-120 f4, sometimes a 35 millimeter 1.8, and if I'm in the garden, sometimes a 90 millimeter 2.8 macro. I have not gone over to the dark side yet with mirrorless. My walk around camera when I travel and when sometimes it's not safe maybe to have a big camera or it's just too heavy on any given day, the Canon G7X is my go-to pocket camera with a fast f1.8 to 2.8 lens on it. The woman in this picture is my wife. I call her the walker. She walks faster than I do. She does her thing and is often the subject of some of my pictures. You'll generally always see her from behind. Photography ultimately captures a moment in time. But of course, what happens in the mind of the viewer is much more complicated. The camera or other creative tools have no concept of mood or emotion. They capture what the eye sees, but only part of what the brain perceives. And when we're taking pictures, we've got both things going on, both as the photographer and then as we're thinking about the viewer who's going to be looking at our pictures. Much of the perception when we look at pictures and when we even take pictures remains in our unconscious. The psychologists call this inattention blindness. There's a gap, an intentionality gap. And what we're going to talk about today hopefully will help close the gap between what our eyes see and what our brain perceives, both our brains and the brains of our viewers. And because of this gap, I have found it's helpful in the reading and research that I've done to understand and get more insight into the how and why my brain and the viewer's brain perceives what it does. And as photographers, if we can get our heads around that, pardon the pun, I think we have a chance of creating pictures that are not better, but more memorable and interesting. So I'm going to state the obvious again. Pictures are created to be viewed. No kidding. And yet, pictures only have lives as a result of being viewed. And without the viewer, the picture is just a blotch of color, patterns, shapes, lines, and so forth. So the viewer is really, the mind of the viewer is what I'm going to spend a lot of time focusing on in this presentation. Are you creating an aesthetically beautiful picture? Are you hoping to conjure stories in the mind of the viewer? Are you documenting an event? Are you doing all the above? And the question is, what's your intention? I'd like to also quickly talk about an idea that is really fundamental to this presentation also. A picture like the one on the left on this screen was taken in Guatemala. It's a boy, obviously a young man, walking down the street, cobblestone street, dog behind him. And you might ask, I told you it was Guatemala, but you might have wondered, who is this man? Where are they? What is the town? Is that his dog? And so forth and so on. The viewer looking at that picture may also have in their mind a memory about their own childhood, let's say, or maybe an experience they're having at this moment. Maybe you have a dog, they have a dog, and they're wondering or thinking about a time in their life that this picture reminds them of, irrespective of what the picture itself has to offer. So the question is, what would you like the viewer to perceive and feel when viewing your pictures? What is your intention? I think about that all the time right before I take a picture. We can't control the viewer, but we can influence them. This scene grabbed my attention. It also grabbed my intention. Clear subject, no distractions, contrasty, a little surprising, maybe even ambiguous in its interpretation. Somebody looked at this photograph, which happens to be the cover of my book, and said, did I know who the cancer patient was? And that resonated for me because I'm a cancer survivor. And of course, upon closer examination, you all will see that this is actually 3 mannequins in the entryway to a women's clothing store. It caught my eye. The ambiguity of it caught my eye. My intention was to cause the viewer to wonder, just what are they looking at? To lean in and pause for an extra second or two. And if we can get our viewers to pause when looking at our pictures, better chance that they will remember the picture. Oh, and I like taking pictures of mannequins. They're always okay having their picture taken, and they never ask for money. Oh, and I should also say at this point, I am totally cool with people asking questions during the presentation. Maybe one of you could monitor the chat. And if someone does ask a question, I'm really happy to pause and answer.
I'll be glad to do that.
Oh, super, Marianne. Thank you.
I meant too that mannequins don't ask for a release.
No, they don't. So my intention Geiger counter was buzzing when I saw the woman and her dog. The picture on the left was the first snap, and that wasn't very good. And I'll admit that I gave a soft whistle. The woman turned her head, the dog's ears perked up, and I took the picture that you see on the right. Just in terms of the ethics of taking people pictures, I went over to her. I shared the photos. She was thrilled. She gave me her cell phone to take more pictures of her and her dog. And we communicated via email. And it was very nice, nice experience. Here we have clean subject, no distractions, human connection, and the archetype maybe of the caregiver, of the human-animal relationship, and maybe a possible story even in the mind of the viewer. So my intention, I had intentionality when taking this picture. All that by way of introduction to what I call 5 strategic ideas for creating more interesting and memorable pictures. I'm a chemical engineer by training. I spent years helping clients reverse engineer their manufacturing processes so they could understand why things aren't going as planned. This presentation is the result of me trying to reverse engineer the question, why are some pictures more memorable than others? Why? You know, it was curious to me. Lots of books tell us how to make good pictures, as if it's a mechanical process. Almost prescriptive, do this, do that, don't do this. Mostly tactics related to things like aperture and histograms, a lot of left brain stuff. Maybe it's because the authors don't think we can, learn the non-mechanical side of art. But I'm going to give a try at some of that stuff today. Rules never encouraged me to think. I like to think. I'm a thinking photographer, and feeling, by the way, as you'll see. So what I did was I made a long list of all these do's and don'ts, rules, regulations, do's and don'ts, techniques, and so forth. I put them into what's called an affinity diagram from my consulting days. And I grouped them. And lo and behold, when I grouped them, 5 groups showed up. They really just kind of showed up. The first one is, what is your subject? And the parenthetical there is, why are you taking the damn picture? I think many of us don't spend the extra second or two thinking about, why are we clicking the shutter? The second one is, does our picture connect with the viewer in some fashion? If it's just a cold, mechanical picture that's nice, then it's unlikely to be interesting and memorable. But if it connects with the viewer, you're on another opportunity for connection and for it being memorable. Third, does the picture have energy? The human brain craves its ability to feel and sense when it looks at an image. And if an image has energy and what I call graphic tension, then it increases the likelihood it'll be a memorable picture. And we'll talk a lot about graphic tension. And then fourthly, do the main elements in your photograph stand out in a way that you want them to in the mind of the viewer? Unfortunately, a lot of times we take pictures and we confuse or conflate our experience being there with what a viewer will perceive who was not there at the moment that you took the picture. So we have to, kind of deal with that, that distinction. And so creating distinctions and differentiation in our compositions. And lastly, a lot of us know all about things like leading lines, but leading lines is only one of maybe at least a half a dozen tools and techniques for what we're really trying to do is manage the viewer's eye as they look at our pictures. Pardon this graphic, I'm a management consultant. I couldn't resist this picture. It's the only one like it in the presentation. So we got the 5 strategic ideas on the left. Then you see all the tactical stuff in the middle. That's the stuff I grouped. And you'll recognize a lot of those tactics. And then I believe that if you focus on these 5 strategic ideas, you have a better chance of making more memorable pictures. And of course, light cuts across all of these 5 strategic ideas, which is the subject of another presentation of mine and a deeper conversation for another day. So let's get started. What is your subject? Why are you taking the darn picture? So being present with our subject, slowing down, what is our perception of why we're taking the picture? What makes the picture worth photographing? And the word I like to use, and many of you I know use the same word, essence. What is the essence of the subject that we're taking a picture of? And have we captured it? When the subject is a simple straight up portrait like this one, a poor boy in a small town in southern China, it lends itself to clarity of intention. Capturing the essence, of course, with a straight up portrait's a little harder. You're trying to capture a moment, an expression, a reflection of the reality for that person. Here, the boy having his eyes looking up at me like that really adds to the feeling of the picture. Clean border patrol, looking around the edges of the picture. Got nice catch lights in his eyes. His expression is pretty poignant. His mother is actually holding his hand off to his left. And this picture did have me give the mother a little bit of money for the picture. So clear subject. My intention was to capture the sense of this boy in this poor village in China. Very different from this picture. We all take these kind of pictures. It's taken in Pisac, Peru. It's visually colorful, a little confusing maybe. It's not quite photojournalism. You know, you might look at the picture and say, oh, I got a bunch of those pictures. What is the photographer trying to say? Where does the photographer want me to look? And that's the problem with this picture. It's a nice vacation snapshot. But when I turned around, this is what I saw. Literally, I just turned around. And these two kids were sitting on the steps. They're poor kids who are begging for money in this poor village. The goat under the girl's arm is what attracts tourists like me who think it's so cute. But it's really a pretty poignant cultural commentary on this town. It's cute, but poignant at the same time. And maybe even as a result, it has an ambiguity of meaning, causes you to look in a little bit, to pause. The beach. Many of us go to the beach. We go to the beach and we take pictures. Take pictures of the sand and the water's edge and sunsets and maybe sunrises. I don't do that generally because everyone does that. So I go to the beach and I'm asking myself, so what can I take a picture of that captures the essence of the beach without it being a trite beach picture? and here we go. Maybe I've tried with this picture. I got lucky with the ball. A boy threw the ball. I caught it in midair. Someone's footprints going down the beach. So it conjures, by virtue of the absence of people, the idea of walking the beach as well as playing on the beach. Things that maybe we all could relate to. So hopefully the picture has connection without it being a trite picture. What was my intention? I went to the garden. I'm on the board at a local arboretum, and I've begun taking more garden pictures, which is a lot of fun. But my question was, so what am I taking a picture of and why? I don't like taking pretty pictures of flowers. I thought, all right, it's springtime. Let me try and capture the archetype, the idea of birth in the garden. Okay. So I found this plant that had this bud. I don't know what you call it in plant language, but it's going to turn into a flower in a few days. I used my 90mm macro. And by the way, if you want to get your head around depth of field, walk around with a macro lens for a week. You'll never think about depth of field the same way again. So my intention here was not to just take pretty pictures of flowers. Similarly, we go and we see animals like swans that we've seen so many of. In the picture on the left, another frankly boring picture of swans. But I keep going because swans are beautiful. And the essence of the swan, its neck and the way it uses its body in the water, is really a miracle of nature. And so I keep going. And one day, you know what they say, the harder you work, the luckier you get. I got these two swans putting their necks in the water at the same time. And I thought, oh my God, maybe the wait was worth it. My brother asked me how I got the swans to do that. Rudolf Arnheim is a favorite author of mine. He wrote a couple of terrific books back in the 50s, believe it or not. They're still in print. One of them is called Visual Thinking. He writes, the brain craves the ability to focus its attention. It'll search for the object of its attention. A homogeneous pattern of leaves might be interesting, but the brain will find it boring. There's no point of attention. And I hope in looking at the last number of pictures in this section, the idea of being clear about your subject and what you want the viewer to focus on has come through. What's the point of attention? In the Isle of Skye up in Scotland, driving down the road, and I see this lonely phone booth on this deserted road with nothing but a telephone pole and wires. Of course, I had to stop and get out and capture it. So that clarity of subject, clarity of border patrol, my intention was to capture the isolation and loneliness of this road, the road to nowhere, a lonely scene. That was my intention. Clear subject and point of attention. Flowers in the garden. The picture on the left was the same flower as the picture on the right. But I worked the picture, I worked the scene, I kept moving around. The flower is only about 2 inches tall. And when I came around the front of the picture, I got a completely different orientation to the flower. And so my keeper is the one on the right. The one on the left I only show in this presentation. How many flower pictures have you seen in your days as photographers? Don't get me wrong, flower pictures can be beautiful. They evoke emotions of joy and happiness and so forth. But we can do better. What is the essence of the picture of the flower that we're taking a picture of? Of course, with animals, it's a little easier because they're alive, they're living creatures, so we can relate to them. But getting clarity of the subject, making it all work here, I have clean composition, shallow depth of field. I got both the hummingbird and the plant on diagonals that form a bit of a triangle. And so that's really helpful here. Clear subject, clear intention, capturing the hummingbird while he's drinking from the flower. Iconic subjects are particularly difficult. Any of you who have been to Maine in Acadia Park will recognize the picture on the left. It's the Bass Harbor Lighthouse. 500 million tourists have taken the exact picture from the exact rock on the exact perspective as the picture on the left. That's the problem with going to places like the Eiffel Tower. You know, as photographers, how are we going to do something different? But when I turn around, like in the Pisac, Peru picture, what I saw were these rocks that communicate a timelessness, a durability, strength, and resistance of the rocky coast of Maine. My intention was just that. How do I communicate the rocky coast of Maine? The Bass Harbor Lighthouse is a tourist snapshot. Don't show it in your competitions. Be aware of that when you're submitting competition pictures of iconic images.
Hey Ray, we have a question from Carol. How
Yeah.
does black and white contribute to making an image more memorable?
Oh, that's great. Well, it contributes when the subject of the photograph is accentuated by it being in black and white. So if it's a picture that inherently has mood, feeling, and emotion to it, that's one of the first criteria. It's not a guarantee, but it's the first. Pictures that have strong contrast between the main elements, because sometimes color helps distinguish main elements from each other. But if your composition doesn't have main elements that are sufficiently distinct and separate, and we're going to talk about that, then sometimes black and white causes the picture to be a muddle. And so I take pictures in color and then I test them out in black and white. Because I tend to take pictures that have a feeling and emotion to them, a lot of my final prints tend to be in black and white, like this egret. And like the swans, a lot of people take a lot of pictures of egrets. The question is, how do we capture the essence of the egret and really show it off as Mother Nature intended? Compositionally, this picture's got this beautiful diagonal with the egret with the wing out like that. This is a rookery outside of Charleston. And the male egret was bringing sticks to the nest. So clear subject, and my intention with the subject was to really try and capture the beauty of the neck and the wings of the egret. Back to the black and white question, here's a decent example. The picture on the left is a tourist snapshot of a beach in Sicily, in Syracuse. It's a city beach, very narrow, rocky. When I was standing, if you can make it out, there's a staircase alongside the beach, and there's a roadway, elevated roadway over it. I was standing alongside the cars, looking straight down onto the beach, and I saw this young couple on the beach on their towel. The girl had her hand around the boy's neck, and oh, he looks like the happiest young man in Sicily on that day. And I took the picture. They didn't know I took it from about maybe 20 feet straight above them. This picture looks better in black and white. There's something about the feeling of this picture, makes the timelessness of the two lovers, I assume, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, lent itself to being black and white. And I'll mention as we go on, talking about black and white and color, I'll come back to that as we look at other pictures coming up, black and white and color. Thanks for that question. I happen to do a workshop on black and white and color, and it's interesting because there's no right answer. What I do is I show about 60 pairs of pictures in black and white and color side by side, and then whoever's in attendance, I let them loose to talk about it and fight over who thinks it's better in color and black and white. And by the end of the presentation, people have a pretty good feeling for when it's better. Okay, let's proceed. I struggled for a long time with the issue of how do I deal with pictures that are more intellectual, maybe I'll call it, versus pictures that have emotion and feeling and cause me to think intuitively about their meaning. And looking at picture side, they're different kinds of pictures. One not better or worse, but they're different. And so what I realized was all pictures have some level of thinking that the viewer does when looking at them, and feeling or intuiting when looking at pictures. But it's on a continuum. And as photographers, we should be aware of where our photographs are on this continuum. A picture of some desert flowers with the cloud in the background. It's graphically interesting. It might engender some curiosity. It's a tight perspective on some desert plants. It's aesthetically attractive, but not much emotional engagement with the viewer, right? We can accept that. But it's not a bad picture. I may even like to have that kind of picture over my couch. I don't know. I was in Norway a few months ago. This is the Norway cityscape. It's like crazy. The geometry, the lines. It's really interesting at an intellectual level, not at a feeling or emotional level. Here we've got a wall, a window, a tree. The window conjures people because it suggests that this is either a house or an establishment. So we kind of know by their absence that there's people there somewhere, sometime. The tree is nature. It's softer than the walls. And so it's nice colors. It's aesthetically pleasing. I really like this picture. But I recognize, not a but, and I recognize it's still a little more on the thinking side as opposed to the feeling side of the continuum. We sure know what this picture is of. I walked into this bathroom in Oslo and I thought, I have to take this picture, but I better do it quickly because if someone sees me doing it, they're going to think I'm a weirdo. So I grabbed this picture. It's a picture, it's graphically interesting, and as human beings, we can relate to a bathroom, right? It's a men's bathroom. They're old urinals. It's kind of amusing. It maybe conjures a story. We might wonder if in the next few moments some guy is going to walk into the picture. So it conjures maybe some idea of action or motion. Okay, it's not a purely intellectual picture, in other words.
Almost looks like a face.
I'm sorry?
Almost looks like a face.
It does. Yeah, the two eyes.
Robot.
Yeah, yeah, the urinals are the mouth, right? Yes.
Now, Ray, would that picture have been different in black and white?
Oh, this picture would absolutely have lent itself to black and white because there's hardly any color in it to begin with. And so what I often say is another one of they're not rules, it's just a set of criteria, sort of a checklist. Does color add or take away from the composition? If the answer is color takes away or distracts the viewer, then try it out in black and white and see what you think. This picture is moving us along this thinking feeling continuum. Fun colors. You can almost feel the ice on top of these fresh squeezed orange juice. For me, it conjures memories of childhood when we used to go on a vacation and Dad would take us out and we'd get orange juice in the restaurant, and so it brings back memories for me. It makes me smile when I look at the picture. So it's more than just an intellectual exercise. And then a picture like this, hopefully, if you know anything about water, you can only imagine this was a cold day. The water in Maine is generally about 55 degrees. So these lobster fishermen are in a cold environment and the waves are crashing up on their lobster boats. This picture is more than just a thinking picture. It has feeling and emotion in it also. So I digressed with those series of pictures to just raise to our consciousness this question of what kind of pictures do we tend to take? Do you tend to take? And in any given picture, where are you on this continuum of it being an intellectual picture versus a feeling picture? And now let's dig into this idea even further. First, this is our second of the 5 principles, connecting with the viewer. And the subtitle is Finding the Universal in the Particular. And I'll talk more about that idea in a second. Emotions, we all know what emotions are, right? And here are 5 typical emotions. These emotions I selected because they're the kinds of emotions that evoke a physiological response. So if we can get our viewer to either feel sadness, anger, surprise, fear, happiness, our pictures have a better chance of being memorable. And then in this section, we'll also talk about archetypes. What is an archetype? Plato may have been the first philosopher to call it forms, but then Carl Jung, fast forward 2,000 years, Carl Jung, the psychologist, believed that archetypes are the fundamental unit of human collective unconscious. They reflect basic patterns common to every human being on Earth. They reside in our unconscious and influence what we think, what we feel, and what we do. Think about how powerful that is for us as photographers. If we include archetypes in our compositions, then we have a very, very strong chance of causing the viewer to react exactly the way we'd like them to. Examples of archetypes, an old person at the end of life. We know what that emotion is. We know that, quote, archetype. Someone sitting on a water's edge looking out over the water, the thinker. The woman and her dog, the caregiver. A pregnant mom, the idea of birth. A teacher teaching a young person, the teacher, and so forth and so on. So if we can bring in emotions and archetypes into our compositions, we got a good chance of making memorable pictures. when I was in Havana, this woman was owned the house. We were renting a room a few years back. She didn't speak any English, but that didn't matter. And she always had the bird on her breast, basically on her dress. The bird was always talking. She was always smiling. Here we have a woman with an infectious smile. It reflexively puts a smile on our face as viewers. We relate to the picture in a connection way. And a little bit of a shallow depth of field helps. I could have, hopefully, it was a quick snap, but a little bit of shallow depth of field here is helpful. Connecting. One of the favorite pictures in my portfolio here, taken in Lyon, France. It was an outdoor cafe in the summertime. I looked into the cafe and said, oh my goodness, the essence of this scene, of the coziness and warmth and safety of a cafe, and the relationship between the two boys in the foreground, capturing the essence and the feeling of this scene. Hopefully I did that here. So this picture, I hope, connects with the viewer and has archetypes that ensure that connection. Pictures don't have to have people in them to connect, but it helps. The picture on the left is a lonely rowboat in the water with the mountains in the background. And the picture on the left is okay, but the picture on the right was actually the one that I took. I took out the boys with Photoshop to make the distinction. When you put the boys in the picture, it changes everything. Roland Barthes, who was a famous philosopher and a commentator on photography, said, the creation of meaning in an image requires that the image ceases to be just a representation or an object, in other words, the rowboat, and the picture becomes an unfolding experience, an event. The picture on the right is an unfolding experience. The picture on the left is not. How many of us had vinyl chairs growing up? How many of us still have the vinyl chairs? So here, this chair conjures the archetype of aging, time gone by, past, present, future. Maybe emotions like melancholy, maybe even sadness. It's a clean subject. I've got some subtle diagonals that help bring the viewer's eye into the picture, adds a little energy. And I have an introducing idea here. The pertinent negative is the idea that there's an element in the photograph that suggests human presence, but the humans are not there. I call that the pertinent negative. And this chair certainly has that. Some say an empty chair was never the same after the invention of photography. Connection. I'm not trying to be intrusive with this young boy. I don't want him to look up. I don't want him to know I'm taking his picture. It'll ruin the spontaneity. I only have a couple of seconds. I take the picture. We've got any one of us who've played on the beach. We've got the emotional connection there, personal experiences, the archetype of childhood, and so forth. Feelings maybe of joy, peace, and so forth. Hopefully this is a picture that can connect with at least some viewers. It's a little harder with plant pictures. I tend to take plant pictures that I feel I can anthropomorphize in some way. The flower on the left, to me, in my weird, warped mind, suggests strength and endurance and perseverance, human qualities. I feel like these two flowers are surviving in the face of difficult odds. Having a shallow depth of field is really helpful to have the flowers stand out from the background. And having the stems be off at an angle adds a certain amount of graphic tension, which we're going to talk a lot more about. Back to people pictures, connecting, archetypes. Uncle Max is on the left. A boy who I don't know and his dog is on the right. What are they both thinking and feeling? What thoughts are conjured in the mind of the viewer when we look at these two pictures? When we look at a picture like Uncle Max, we see his eyes. And when you see the eyes of someone in a photograph, it's as if you're looking into them and you're thinking about them. When you see someone like the boy on the right with his back to us, we can't see them, but we can sense them through us. In fact, the psychologists tell us that there's a psychological transference that happens when we look at people from behind. We imagine ourselves sitting on the beach with a dog, looking out at the water, thinking about, any number of things. In both cases, the viewer connects in a personal way. In a picture like this, the viewer's eye goes back and forth between three main elements: the woman, the children, the wheelbarrow, and the fruit. We can't control exactly where the viewer's eye goes, and that's okay. The emotions and archetypes in this picture are strong. The mother working hard, the children not caring and just having fun playing, the loving parent, and all that is conjured in a picture like this. A picture that has the chance to connect with the viewer in some fashion. You can't not connect with the picture like this and smile. Archetypes of youth, innocence, growing up, best friends, childhood stories, best girlfriends, we connect, we relate, we feel, we smile when looking at a picture like that. These happen to be my neighbor's kids. Who when they were younger, would call me and say, "Uncle Ray, let's go out for a photo shoot." Here again, we have the pertinent negative. No people, but the physical artifacts of people's presence and life. Maybe elicits a story of farm life, maybe reminds us as viewers of our own childhood, or maybe today, putting clothes out on the line with the clothespins. If we grew up on a farm, the broken down fence and the barbed wire conjures other stories. There's the chance for connection with the viewer in the picture like this. We connect with pictures like this because here we see the universal in the particular. The universal is getting our hair cut. Many of us, most of us have been to a barber or a hair salon. And so a picture like this is certainly one we can relate to. And it has interesting colors and shapes to go along with it, down in San Miguel de Allende in Mexico. Back to flowers, where it's hard to make a human connection. I came across these two plants with their extended stems crossing, as suggesting a relationship between the two plants, And so again, maybe in my warped mind, I was imagining the anthropomorphization of these two plants, giving this picture a chance at being one that the viewer can connect with as a human. Pictures like these are interesting, partly because it certainly appears to be in another country because of the dress of the women. This is Morocco. It conjures the archetypes of family and caring, maybe emotions of joy and happiness. It might engage with our own memories if we, with our own families, spent time on water's edge. We're curious, so it invokes curiosity as a Westerner from America looking at a picture like this. So that gives it a chance to be one that's memorable. And the woman's arm on the shoulder of the woman in front of her is really helpful also to create connection for the viewer. When we see relationship in a picture like this, we understand it as human beings looking at it. And who can't be moved when seeing a picture like this of old friends? I'll tell you, I trolled these guys for a minute or two. And what I was waiting for was for there to be light between their legs and for the three umbrellas to be distinct from their bodies. So I got 3 guys, 6 legs, and 3 umbrellas, all separated with a light between them. And when taking pictures of people, that's often very helpful to capture in your compositions. Sally Mann, some of you may know her as a photographer. She likes taking pictures that have ambiguity. She says, don't bother if the picture isn't peculiar in some way. Otherwise, it's just boring. And Leonard Bernstein says a work of art doesn't answer questions, it provokes them. And its essential meaning is in the tension between contradictory answers. So when there's the potential for the viewer to have a multiple interpretations of our pictures, there's a better chance they'll be interesting and memorable. When I show this photograph, I get different reactions from different people. Some people have to look away and they just can't look at it. They find it just too horrible to look at. Other people look at it and they think dinner. They think appetizers, at a Greek restaurant. So I'm of the former. We're vegetarians in my household. And looking at this, although we do eat meat, we do not eat octopus. And this picture is sort of difficult to look at for me, but maybe not for you. And that's the beauty of this picture as a photographer. It makes it likely to be more memorable for the viewer. Here, the ambiguity relates to current events and maybe even politics. The composition is curious because especially these days, anyone looking at this picture may wonder, what was Ray trying to say? And the truth is, I wasn't trying to say anything. My intention was to create a picture that would create some ambiguity of interpretation in the viewer so that maybe it would be a picture that people remember. And back to flowers, ambiguity. Sometimes the ambiguity is you do a double take. Like, yeah, I think this is called a flame azalea, just before it bloomed. But I look at this and it looks like birds in the nest, like baby birds. And so for me, that ambiguity of interpretation hopefully makes this picture a little more memorable for the viewer as well. This picture was taken in Philadelphia's Italian market. I was with some club colleagues and we were invited into the freezer at one of the meat markets down in the Italian market area. My colleagues thought everything in the freezer was sort of amusing. I didn't, as you gather from the picture of the octopus. But I took, as a result, very different photographs than my colleagues. This picture of a dead pig hanging upside down with a hook in its legs, looking sort of similar to human legs, was, I thought, a picture worth taking, particularly for its ambiguity of interpretation. And so that can be very helpful to keep in mind as we're looking at pictures to take. And let's move on to our third category, strategic idea, graphic tension. As an engineer and manufacturing process troubleshooter, I tend not to take things at face value. Rule of thirds was one of those things. We all know what rule of thirds is. And I was wondering to myself, it's a good idea. It generally works. But my question was why? Why does it work? Well, when I thought about it and when I read about related subjects, what I realized is rule of thirds is just one example of a technique we can use to create energy and graphic tension in our photographs. Other techniques are non-symmetry, perception of motion, any feeling of imbalance, diagonals, truncated objects, and so forth. Balance is a powerful visual reference. Lack of balance is disorienting. And as a result of it being disorienting, it increases the likelihood that the viewer will have a response to the picture, a visceral response at some level, even at an emotional level. That creates for the chance of the picture being more memorable. So here we have a picture that has a lot of graphic tension to it by virtue of the man's body language. We know what boats are like on the water. They're tippy and difficult to walk on like that without holding on. The psychological research suggests that as humans, we're programmed to detect motion. It's a part of evolutionary psychology, it's believed, maybe as a defense mechanism. This feeling of off balance, does it engage our mind as a viewer more fully as a result? I think it does. Here's a simpler composition. It's a cairn, a stack of rocks, in this case, put together by somebody on the beach. But it's the sense that this could fall over at any second engages the viewer's mind in I think, for an extra second or two, at some unconscious level, making the picture possibly more interesting. A picture like this has different elements that leave the viewer with different feelings. We have the rigidity of the telephone pole and the straightness of the wires. And then we have this tree that seems to be surviving in the midst of unimaginable environmental discomfort. This is the northwestern corner of Ireland that, unlike the south, this part of Ireland is like a Mars landscape. It's rock. The main elements are clearly separated. The tree has a nice background, the telephone pole. Do you find your head tilting a little bit, following the line of the tree as you're looking at this picture? It has almost a physiological effect on the viewer. A little bit. I don't want to overstate it. This picture also brings to mind another interesting psychological phenomenon in our minds. Look at this picture. Look at it closely. Get ready. Here we go. It's the same picture. It's just flipped. I'm going to go back to the first one again. And then go to the second one. The psychologists have told us, interestingly, there's this phenomenon. The human brain tends to scan things left to right. And what that means is, back to the idea of imbalance, that means that scanning things from right to left creates a little bit of imbalance, which creates graphic tension, which could make the picture more memorable. And the research suggests that it has nothing to do with us as English speakers, that even Arabic speakers and Hebrew speakers have the same phenomenon in their psychological makeup. So have fun experimenting with this idea of the left-right or right-left bias and see if you discover some things about your compositions. Shooting people pictures can be a contact sport. Before my wife had a chance to pull me back from the curb, I ran into the street. I'm down on my knees at the level of the girls, and I'm taking their pictures. And they were initially a little concerned about who I was, and then they got the idea, and we had a lot of fun. The fact that the girl in the foreground is leaning forward with her hands on her knees, her feet are sort of curved around in a little pigeon-toed, cute fashion, brings a lot of energy to this picture. Otherwise, the picture on the left were the same girls. And in this case, I turned it into black and white, and it seemed to work better because I thought the red sweatshirt of the girl detracted from her face. It took the viewer's eye away from the essence of this picture, which was the expression on her face. So here, color distracted for me as opposed to added. Here's the walker, graphic tension. A lot's going on here in this very simple composition. Because the posts are at an angle, the barbed wire is at an angle, the ground in the background is curving, the path itself is curving. Even though it doesn't seem like there's a lot of energy in this picture, because of all these curves, it adds an important element of graphic tension. You know, here we have a little ambiguity of interpretation too. You look at that and you wonder, is that cobweb really pulling those flowers over? No, of course not. But we leave the viewer with maybe that thought. Having the flowers also at an angle helps add energy to the picture. So what's going on here? It was a crazy cold, wildly windy day on a beach in Iceland. These newlyweds are having their picture taken by their photographer who's standing next to me. And he, the photographer, is motioning for the bride to go further out on the rocks. She is looking terrified and freezing. The position of her arm and hands and fingers adds a lot to the sense of energy in this picture. Her dress, of course, the wind blowing her dress up. Lots of energy in this picture and curious interpretation. I do wonder how their marriage is going. I wasn't shy about asking this woman's husband if I could get in on the action. And she and he were happy to have me tag along. The wind, I had a fast shutter speed, so it captured her dress in disarray in the wind. Her hair is blowing, her arms are up in the air as if she's flying. So a lot of energy and tension in this picture. And sometimes it's a static picture, but because of the shapes contribute the energy. This almost, it's an implied motion, even though there's nothing moving in the picture. Graphic tension. Our fourth principle, strategic idea, creating distinctions and differentiation. The idea is that if the elements in our compositions don't stand out from each other in some fashion, then it's going to be difficult for the viewer to perceive what we want them to perceive about our compositions. So we have to be aware of things like the relative light values of the different objects or elements in our compositions. The relative size, for example, of the elements in our compositions, the relative brightness, depth of field, and so forth. All these things with the strategic idea of creating distinction and differentiation between our main elements. Oops. I'm sitting on the church steps in a small town in the Azores, and I see this guy walking down the street in a white suit and a black hat, when everyone else is wearing jeans and flip-flops and colorful shirts and so forth. I said, oh, I got to get this picture. But I had to get it before he crossed the white line in the middle of the road. And I had to get it so that his hat was not overlapping with the curb in the back. So I had him isolated. And I also wanted to capture his legs separate from each other at the same time, that sense of motion. So a lot was going on, and I had to do it really quickly, creating differentiation and distinction between him and the environment. Here, I knew I wanted to have fun with this picture, but then these other tourists got in the way. I couldn't tell the tourists to go away, so I had to move myself around and try and get separation. And I ended up with three main elements: the guy on the left with the hat, the family in the middle, and the icing on the cake was I caught the boy on the right scratching his belly. So I even got a little humor in it. That was a little serendipity. Creating distinction. Sometimes the distinction and differentiation is right there in front of you. Here we have a silhouetted man grabbing a cup of coffee with a colleague. You can't see the colleague, is behind the ferns. But this picture has a lot going for it. But I show it here as an example of the main element being distinct and separate from the other elements in the composition. I was on the beach in New Jersey. The picture on the left was a lot of what I saw, and I knew that wasn't going anywhere. And so I had to just be patient and wait until the scene sort of appeared before me, when I had nice separation between 4 people walking in the fog, and I had light between their legs. So I had 4 people and 8 legs, as I mentioned before, creating separation and distinctions. Here, the question was, all right, the elements are interesting. I need to position myself for separation. And then I realized, oh my goodness, the mountains in the background seem to pattern the shape of the tents. So now I also have to think about the relationship between the tents and the mountains. And at the same time, having separation, because I felt if any of the points of the tents were higher than the mountains, that would be a problem. They would be overlapping with each other. So I needed to think about the separation between the tents and the mountains as well. Iconic images are difficult for the reasons I mentioned earlier. This church is iconic in Iceland. Everybody takes the picture of the church. So I knew I had to do something. I thought, well, how about if I make the cross, oddly enough, the only cross out on the lawn? Strange. But I thought, let me make the cross the main point of attention for the viewer and let the church be secondary. And I had to raise the camera up enough so the cross didn't overlap with the stone wall in the background. This beach was the same beach with those 2 green tents on it, but from a different perspective. And I'm standing on a bluff, maybe 10 or 15 feet above the beach, watching the scene unfold before me and thinking, oh, I got to keep waiting and watching until all the people, these little groups of people, are separate from each other. So it almost seems like a surreal feeling of, how we're all in this world together and yet we're all alone at the same time. And then on the lower left, I got that single person walking. It's the only single person on the whole beach. Creating these separation was important to this composition. And here it's a much simpler idea. I had to raise the camera high over my head so that the boy's silhouette did not overlap with the mountain in the background, or the picture would have been a throwaway. I had to have the camera so high, I actually couldn't see the picture I was taking until I brought the camera back down. This was obviously a simpler picture to take, but challenging, because I had to think about what was I trying to represent here. I wanted the candle to be isolated. I needed the reflection of the light from the windows on the table. I wanted it centered. I didn't want the candle to overlap with the end of the table, and so forth and so on. So the candle being the main element, and I wanted it lined up with the windows and the staircase. So thinking and working the scene, thinking about the main elements and their relationship to each other. This kind of picture, a street scene, the picture on the left is a throwaway. Again, I show it though because I was working the picture. The guy did not notice that I was taking this picture. Finally, he puts his head up. I know that I've got shallow depth of field. And the black and white, obviously, I think is important here because the hand-rolled cigarette stands out better in black and white than it would have in color because the fence in the background had some coloration in it. And the texture of his skin and his ears all lent itself to black and white. But separating the hand-rolled cigarette was my intention. from the background and from the rest of the scene. Sometimes you just get lucky and everything just sort of lines up. A lone camel on the desert in a small town called Merzouga on the edge of the Sahara in Morocco. All right. That was strategic idea number 4, distinctions and differentiation. And our last of the 5 strategic ideas. We started with a reminder that it's all about the viewer, and that's how we're going to close. Understanding and thinking powerfully about the viewer's eye and the viewer's perception when they look at a picture, and where our compositions take the viewer's attention. Can we control it or at least influence it by using things like light, leading lines, diagonals, depth of field, and so forth? The isolation of the 2 people on the stark white surface, they're small elements in the composition. They're distinct and differentiated from the surface they're sitting on, which happens to be the roof of the Oslo Opera House. It's an amazing architectural feat. We recognize them as people. We wonder what they're doing there. Our eye is immediately attracted to them, even though they're small. And then our eye roams around the composition. And for something completely different, when traveling, my wife and I often
The title
love
of
to
that
see.
other one, the one you just showed.
Oh, say it
I'm
again.
curious how you title. What would you title this one?
This one. Picnic at the opera. A picnic at the Oslo Opera House. I don't know.
Okay.
What would you title it?
I don't know. I usually boil things down to one word or 2.
Oh, okay.
I have to think about it. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm really not very good at titling, so I would defer. I depend on my wife for that. She's the writer in the family. When traveling, we often like seeing kids from other countries and what they're doing. We hang around the fence sometimes at the schoolyards when they're out having on recess, hoping no one thinks we're weird by watching them. But the boys saw me with the camera and they all came running over. And this was in Zambia some years ago. We have 3 main elements here, the 3 main boys in the picture. Where does the viewer's eye go? Well, we have a triangle of view, the 3 boys. I can't guarantee you which boy is the first one that the viewer's eye catches. Maybe the boy on the left, because he has his hand up, implying motion, and motion is something that attracts our attention as viewers. But regardless, I think the viewer's eye probably goes round and around the 3 boys. Each boy has a bright spot on their forehead. And so bright spots in our compositions attract the viewer's eye. I wonder whatever happened to these boys. Life in Zambia is not easy. Sometimes managing the viewer's eye doesn't go left or right, it goes up down. Here's Trinity College in Dublin, Ireland. The circular staircase brings the viewer's eye up down, as do the bookshelves. But we also have the leading lines into the picture. They're almost diagonals on the shelves of the bookshelves. And of course, thank goodness we have this bright light, which creates a nice backdrop for the staircase. Black and white for this picture was absolutely the right thing to do because of all the texture and the lines. It looked absolutely better in black and white.
Curious. I didn't think photography was allowed in the library. Did you need? It is?
I don't remember anyone challenging me.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
different.
yeah.
Beg forgiveness.
No, not at all. I'm thinking which library. There was a library in Scotland that was absolutely in Edinburgh, but I can't remember that one.
Many places don't allow flash.
Oh, okay. Maybe that's what it is, no flash. Here's a more classic managing the viewer's eye with a leading line going into the picture. the road in this picture was tilted. So I've got leading line. I've got some graphic energy because of the tilted road. A vanishing point, sort of a vanishing point. I was down on my knees. I thought that perspective would create more interest in the composition. From a storytelling point of view, this picture, we wonder what's with the bikes, why is there no one on the road, what time of day is this, and so forth and so on. So the picture has a number of things going for it. But in this case, managing the viewer's eye was what I wanted to focus on with the diagonals and leading lines. This is a very curious scene in Lisbon last year. I don't know, where was everybody? Like the previous picture, there was this lonely woman walking down the entrance to the train terminal, all by herself, with these beautiful the lights above reflecting on the shiny floor below, bringing the viewer's eye right to that lonely woman. Maybe not lonely, I don't know. It's an assumption. Walking down to catch her train. So here the lights and the angles helped with the managing the viewer's eye. And we can speak with some assurance about what the viewer's eye is going to do in pictures like this. Pictures like this are a little different because the viewer could enter a picture like this either by looking at the boats first. It's all done very quickly and fluidly in the unconscious mind of the viewer, but you could enter the picture at the boats. Or if someone told me the first thing they noticed was the bright sky, I would say, yeah, that makes sense, particularly because the sky has these beautiful clouds that are shooting off up into the picture. But the picture has layers, which is really important to helping the viewer understand the picture at a psychological level. The level of the boats, the level of the water, the level of the town, and then the level of the sky. And this picture similarly has levels to it, but here we enter the picture through the eyes of the two women in the water in the foreground. We imagine ourselves being those women, and we look at where they're looking. We look where they're looking, and we see into the blue lagoon and the layers in the picture. I think it's possible the blue lagoon is closed because of the volcanic eruptions outside of Reykjavik. Too bad. At first, this picture seems a jumble, and I got very lucky, quite honestly. The trumpeter, thank goodness, was standing up against a white wall. And as a result, he, as an element in the composition, stands out and is distinct and separate, as we spoke about in the last section. So by him being distinct and separate, now I have a chance of having the viewer's eye enter this picture by looking at the trumpeter. Then the trumpet is pointing to the left at the couple in the middle dancing. And then our eye goes over to the far left and we see the people in the back having fun. And then at the end, we notice there's a woman sitting on the lower right, watching the scene as if that's us, watching the music, listening. I got to Havana before it was closed. It was a great experience. And some of you may have been out west to Jackson, Wyoming. It's a highly photographed location. It's iconic. And again, I'm asking myself, how do I create a picture that captures the essence of Jackson Hole? And what is the essence of Jackson Hole? Imagine what it would have been like to live there 100 years ago, particularly in the winter, and have that be your outhouse. I don't know about you, but I haven't experienced that. I can only imagine. And then the question was, where do I want the viewer's eye to go? Do I want to take another picture of snow-capped mountains? No. I want to capture the essence of the resilience and strength of the people that probably lived in Jackson Hole. So in this picture, I think the viewer enters the picture on the right with the larger, brighter element, which is the wall and the window on the right. And then the leading line of the house moves our eye over to the outhouse in the distance. And then from the outhouse, we look up and we notice the Tetons, the snow-covered mountains. In this street,
Left and right, to your other point, where you had that tree example,
yeah,
would that be disingenuous to the scene though? Because that's not how it really is, or is that
no,
a
it's
philosophical
interesting.
question?
No, yeah, every picture on its own merits. The psychologists tell us we tend to like to scan left to right, that's a lower energy direction, that when we're forced to scan from right to left, that's a higher energy state for our animal brains. And so it's possible, I can't guarantee this, that because I'm forcing the viewer to look right to left, this creates a little more of an interest on the part of the viewer at some unconscious level. Does that make sense? Maybe not. I hope it does.
It does to me. Because mics are off, it's hard for people to speak.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Marianne. And in this street photography picture, 3 main elements. And then the question is, what's the viewer's eye doing? Well, the man in the foreground on the right, and here's another right to left picture. The man on the right is larger and brighter than the other groupings of men. I guess it's the 4 men on the lower left, and then the single man up at top of the stairs. So the viewer, I think, enters this picture by looking at the man on the right. Then the diagonal stairs bring the viewer's eye into the picture. The tree at the top pointing down helps frame the picture a little bit, forcing the viewer's eye down keeping the viewer's eye down on the staircase. Then we see the other 2 men further down and a little darker. And we can play in post-processing with that idea that the brighter images will tend to attract the viewer's eye before darker images will. The viewer might wonder when these guys are going to get up and where are they going? What is their story?
Ray, what lens are you using for that photo? Where are you in relation to the people on the steps, and what particular lens are you using?
I'm almost always carrying my 24-120. And I don't know or remember. I was fairly close because you'll notice the man on the right noticed me and made me a little nervous. I thought he might get upset, but we waved to each other and he was cool. So I was close enough that he could see I was taking his picture.
Okay. I would think you would have to be with the 120. It's a great shot.
Oh, thank you. And I'm going to end with this quote from a photographer I came across not too long ago, an Italian photographer who does not get his due. One of the early color photographers, Luigi Ghirri. He writes, "Photography is not mere duplication. Even the objects that seem to be entirely described by our own seeing, once represented, may turn out to be like the blank pages of a book yet to be written." I just love this quote. Call me sentimental. And so we covered 5 main strategic ideas. What is your subject? Why are you taking that picture? Secondly, does the picture connect with the viewer at some level, some human level? Does the picture have energy enough to create a psychological, even physiological connection, interest in the composition? Have you sufficiently created distinction and differentiation among the main elements in your pictures so they do what you want them to do, which is stand out and make a statement in your compositions? And have you done all you can do to influence where the viewer looks when they're viewing your compositions. And that's all, folks, as they say, starting with Looney Tunes and ending with Looney Tunes. That's all, folks.
Much. I think you broke down the psychology, some things we'd never really thought about, like when
Oh,
we take
great.
our own pictures.
Oh, I'm glad.
It's fascinating, absolutely fascinating.
The bookshelf behind me has a lot of the traditional books on the top, which are the do's and don'ts, and then all the psychology books below. I am open to questions. I am an open book. I am yours. If you have questions, ask me anything.
I have
You-
one about cameras.
Sure.
Talked about taking a less valuable camera places. And so talk a little bit about that security issue. I've been to places where I've taken less valuable cameras, and one place I was warned to keep my camera hidden because the guy was killed in the morning because he wouldn't give up his camera.
Oh my.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you that when I landed in Morocco in 2009, I was exhausted. My wife and I went to a local park in Casablanca. We sat down on a bench, and within a minute, I saw an arm come over my left shoulder, reach down and grab my brand new D200 and run off with it on the back of his friend's motorcycle. So, and then all the rest of my photographs from Morocco were taken with a little Canon ELPH 4-megapixel camera. And you know what? Like the camel picture in the desert, the best camera is the one you got with you. So I do that. The D850 is it's a hunk. It's a brick. I like it because my hands are my fingers are long. I've got like ape arms, so it works for me. But I'm careful with it. I don't do what I did in Morocco. It never leaves my neck, so that's the first thing I do. And generally, I only have an issue at night. Like I'm reminded of San Miguel in Mexico. I only carried the point and shoot at night. I was just a little leery. So I wanted to be able to just put the camera in my pocket and not just have it around my neck. During the day, pretty much anywhere, I'm not too concerned unless I'm doing maybe walking somewhere I shouldn't be walking, frankly. But does that answer your question, Terry?
Yep.
All right.
I'm curious, you have some wonderful pictures of children. How do you handle taking pictures of children like that without releases or just how do you handle that?
Well, the picture of the boys in Zambia, that was taken in a third world country some time ago. So a little less of an issue. If I'm traveling, and you notice I do like to take people pictures. What I generally find in my ethic around it is if it's children, I'm careful, especially if I'm taking a picture of one child, which I tend not to do. If it's groups of kids in a playground, no one really cares. All the parents are taking the pictures of their kids. Everyone's got their phones out these days. But if I'm zeroing in, then I'm more sensitive. There was a picture I didn't show here from Sicily. I was sitting on a bench outside a cathedral in Palermo, and I saw two girls, cute as all get out, having fun with each other. And I'm like 3 feet in front of them on the bench. And I look up and I think, oh my God, I've got to take this picture. And I look over to the right and I see their parents sitting on another bench. And he's looking at me. Trust me, he's watching me. And I looked at him and I smiled and I motioned with my camera and he gave me the nod. And then I went over and I snapped a few pictures of his daughters, and they came out really nice. And I think the other piece of it is I'm not marketing these photographs for money. I don't have a website that says for $300 you can have this, you can buy this portrait of this kid. Rather, my pictures show up in these kinds of presentations. I would be more sensitive if I were trying to sell the photographs individually on the marketplace. It's not a perfect answer, and I know.
Just a quick comment on it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm very, very sensitive to that too, and
Yeah.
for all the implications. But I noticed like when you said, well, I gave him a little bit of money or something like that. So I guess it's just trying to get the permission. That's what it comes down to. So thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, my ethic is like the very last picture I showed with those guys on the steps. He wasn't looking at me until the last second, just before I clicked the shutter. And I got nervous and I asked myself, should I walk over and show him the picture and introduce myself? He probably didn't speak any English. It was Portugal and Lisbon. I didn't. I did look at him. He sort of gave me a little smirk, and things seemed copacetic. I didn't run away, you know. I got eye contact with him and I got closure. So I try and do that.
Well, in Peru, the whole point of those kids being dressed up and other, there's always uh, sheep or goats or something walking with kids that they want you to take the pictures and then give them money.
That's exactly why
They're
they're doing it.
trying to make money.
Yes,
Unfortunately, those kids may not be in school because they're out making money by having their pictures taken.
yes, that's absolutely right. Good question.
Ray, could you tell us a little bit more about your book? A couple of people have asked.
Oh, sure. I put together a book of 60 black and white pictures that cut across lots of different genres, from people pictures to animal, even some landscapes, which I don't think I showed any landscapes tonight. But the idea of the book, and the book is interspersed with quotes from artists and photographers in a way that I thought would give the viewer, if you sort of go through it, you'll leave having a better feeling for the way I view and perceive the world around me when it comes to photography. I'd like to think it's a fun book for people who are new to photography, because it has something to offer. Yeah, so it's on Amazon. I think there are a handful of reviews on Amazon that might help you also get a feeling for it.
Excellent. You have such a emotional attachment to your photography that I think that's what makes it so amazing.
Thank you.
Your sensitivity and your empathy and your connection.
Thank you. You know, it's a double-edged sword. For those of you who aspire to sell your pictures, it's a little problematic because nobody wants a picture of three kids from Zambia on their wall. And so these pictures they work for me and what I love to do, which is have this conversation with you. But if your aspiration is to make money, then I do find that people tend to like pictures that are a bit more anodyne, to go over their couch and match the colors of the fabrics in their living room, which is just that's just the truth of the thing. So, but I guess the bottom line is you got to shoot what you love, and that's the only way your pictures are going to have meaning. At least they'll have meaning for you.
Well, to me, photography is a way to see the beauty in the world, and what your presentation was about is pulling out that beauty.
Thank you, Terry. I really appreciate that. That's what we all struggle with this Facebook world, social media world of likes, thumbs ups and thumb downs, and I see all these postings on social media, and the photographs are, mediocre, to put it mildly, with some exceptions, obviously. And it's I just have shielded myself from it. I've removed myself from social media in that way. And I reach out to clubs and hope I can share this way, as opposed to trying to figure out how many people give me a thumbs up on social media.
Well, Ray, keep an eye out on the chat because a lot of people are thanking you. And I think if
Oh,
30 people could put thumbs up right now, they would.
I'll take those thumbs up.
It was a phenomenal presentation, and we appreciate you being here. And I
Oh,
know
that's so
that
nice.
Paul is probably going to close for us.
I have a favor
Well,
to ask.
folks.
Oh,
I'm
I
just
have one
kidding.
favor
Ray,
to ask.
I did have a question for you.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, you're talking about, you gave the guy the head nod, you gave the father, hey, kind of take, you got the thumbs up. Any uncomfortable situations you've been in that you've kind of had to find your way out of?
Great question. I have had people turn me down, particularly in Islamic countries, and some in Africa. There's just some cultural beliefs around people taking your photograph and stealing your soul, or whatever the superstition is. And then some people just don't want their picture taken. I was in Syracuse, Sicily, a couple of years ago at a fish market, and some fish market guy, he allowed me to take one picture. And then when I went to bring my camera up again for a second picture, he looked at me like he was going to take the meat cleaver and cut my head off. So I quickly backed up.
Very good.
I backed up and walked away. One picture was all he was giving me. So I've been fortunate. Oh, I was going to say, if it's okay, I'm not very good at self-marketing, as you can tell from my comment about social media. If I sent a link, like a Google link, to somebody that maybe you could send to the club, and if anyone was inclined to write a Google review, that would be so appreciated. Who would I send that link to?
Karen.
To Karen.
Well, to the Richmond Camera Club, probably .ccrva.gmail.com.
Oh, what was the first part of it?
Well, let's see. Why don't you do?
We could reach it. Ray, was Jane in contact with you?
Yeah, Jane Webb.
Yeah, why don't you email her, and then
that's
we'll
it.
certainly get that, since you have that.
Oh, great. I appreciate that, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you. And is it possible for me to get a copy of the chat? How does that happen?
It will be attached to the video.
Oh, okay.
So
Cool.
The only other way to do it would be for you to actually print it, probably take snapshots of it.
I just did a right-click copy. Oh, it won't let me do it. That's
Yeah,
okay.
I think you're going to have to take a screenshot.
Yeah, screenshots, but
Oh,
usually it's attached.
Okay. That's great. I'm going to take a picture. That's
There's
great.
also a mail thing there. Enter to send.
Yeah, there should be a little bit. Yeah, a
Oh,
little
I
bit
just-
down at the bottom.
You're right. I just took the picture with my phone camera. Thank you. Any other questions? I'd love to answer anything you got.
I think this is such a new, not topic, but new area, a new perspective for us, that we're all still absorbing everything you've said and processing it. And I mean, for me, it's wow, you really have to think about going out there and think about why you're taking the photo and what you want other people to see. And I'm not used to that. I'm used to, just snapping photos because I like the sunset.
I think you said what you said, Ray, resonated with me was double take. And I think that's what I look at. Like if something makes me do a double take, then that's a picture somewhere.
And I also see that a lot of our really good photographers in the club naturally do what you're talking about. I see it in their pictures when I think back on their pictures.
That's great. We all do it. My wife is a yoga teacher, and there's a saying, another day, another downward dog. And you do it in every class, you do it all the time. So there's some things that we just, if we could, we need to program into our heads. And one of them is, why are we taking this picture? And if we just keep that in mind, all of us, no matter how good we are, we tend to sort of sometimes forget that and just start clicking without thinking.
Hey, here's a question. Do you shoot much with your phone? Was in the chat.
I haven't had a lot of success with my phone. I do take, I do. I, I don't know why. Maybe it's the version of my phone, but the camera and maybe sometimes the post processing on some of the phone images doesn't give me as much flexibility as I'd like in post processing. But yeah, phones, my goodness. Some of the pictures you saw today were phone pics. I forgot to mention which ones, but
A couple of Carol had mentioned that she plans to watch this again. You had mentioned earlier that you do other presentations, other types of presentations.
yeah,
Would those be on your website, or how would we know?
they'd be on my website. If you like the idea of being a thinking photographer, the one that is really fun, I call it visual time travel. And it's not about travel logs. It's not about going on vacation and taking vacation pictures. It's about thinking about the continuum between pictures that don't tell stories, all the way on the other line of pictures that really do tell stories, and everything in between, and how do we make those distinctions. That's a fun one. Then there's one on black and white, which is very interactive. As I mentioned, I let everyone fight it out, and I actually don't talk very much. I just show pictures and let people argue. And at the end of the presentation, everyone gets an idea of whether they like a picture in black and white or color. What's the other one? Oh, and then people pictures. Just focusing on people. All that's involved there. I think that's the four. But yeah, if you're interested, by all means, just let me know. I'd love to see you guys again.
Well, that would be amazing. I think I can't see any more questions popping up. So I think we're good. Paul, do you have ending comments?
Put it in the chat what we're all thinking. Appreciate the insight.
Yeah, you have my email, I think. I love sharing ideas. Don't hesitate. If a question comes up, shoot me an email.
Great.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much. Stay warm.
Thanks for your interest and your questions. Love it. All
And
right.
we
Take care.
look forward to seeing you again.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Yes.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Take
Bye now.
care. Thank you.
Thank you.